Alright guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have Andy. He's a nutritionist and PT. Goes as that ginger guy on Instagram. Andy, great name. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me, mate. Thanks. Welcome to the studio. It's a lovely setting, isn't it?
It's a nice little setup, yeah. It's a room, just a table pulled out and a mic. Works well. You can do
my podcast where we just sit around the laptop.
It's perfect.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, geez, thanks for coming on. So, come here, and especially because you're flying away tonight, what, do you want to kind of give an introduction to yourself, what you do, where you're from, what you focus on?
Yeah, so I am Andy, as you said. I suppose I'm an online coach now. I find it a little bit of a cringy saying because everyone calls themselves that, don't they? But I am a personal trainer, I'm a nutritionist, and yeah, I suppose if I said what I do, I support people who've been struggling with dieting for a long time. The relationship with food is not in a good place. So it's not just that they're trying to lose weight, but there's a lot of stuff around their overall approach to dieting, etc. that needs work. So I would say that's what I do. I support people best who have struggled with dieting for a long time, not just to lose the weight, but almost find a little bit of peace with the journey that for a lot of people have been on for most of their lives. All online now. So I did initially work as a PT on gym floor. Qualified with MNU as a nutritionist 2 and a bit years ago, maybe.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then gradually started moving online. COVID happened, moved fully online, was living in Manchester at the time. And then, not going to lie, the area of Manchester where the house wasn't the dream life.
Yeah.
And I remember it, I was sat in an office and I was just like, probably don't need to be here anymore.
Really, yeah.
And then Bali happened and now we're sat in Bali,
looking
at rice fields and that out the window.
Exactly, yeah, it is very nice. And it's come here, where did the name come out of? Where did you get the name That Ginger
Right.
Guy?
So my, don't know if you'll listen to this, so it's slightly awkward, but my ex-girlfriend at the time, right, recently ex, even more awkward. Anyway, fucking hell, dig a hole, mate. So we were in America, and this was at the stage where we did the full California road trip, so we flew into San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
It was sick. San Francisco, then life story here, but there we go. Stopped about 6 times along the way, LA, San Diego, etc. And then we're driving into Vegas, and at this point, this was 2016 or 2017, it's around that time. And I just finished my PT qualification. 2017 then it would have been. 2018? Anyway, really not important. And we're driving into Vegas talking about the fact that I'm going to have to start using social media, which is mad anyway, because if you'd have told me at that point that I was going to regularly use social media and talk on stories and that, I'm like, what's a chance? It's like, what shall I call myself? And I was like throwing names out, like Chev Fitness, I remember saying. And I was stuck on that for a while. And then I was like, Andrew Shevlin PT, and I was like, nah, mate. And then she just went, why you call yourself that fat ginger guy? Because I used to be quite overweight, and I was like, what? I was like, that ginger guy. And I was like, yeah, let's take the fat out of it. And it works. And I was just like, right. So, but do you know what? Like, there's an underscore at the end of the name on my Instagram.
Yeah.
Because there's another guy who's got that ginger guy. I actually sent him a message once, like, oh, mate, can I have that Instagram handle? He never replied.
No.
But yeah, that's where it came from. So I removed the word fat as the suggestion was.
Yeah, fair enough.
That ginger guy. I wasn't sure because it's not a fitness name, is it? Like it's not like no one's going to search it thinking they're looking for fitness. So I actually wasn't sure how it would go.
Yeah, but
it sort of stuck a little bit.
Yeah, it's good, like because it's iconic anyway. If anything, it definitely sticks out. The branding is good. So I guess I heard you say there that you were overweight when you were younger. Is that something then that's kind of drove you to get into fitness and dieting or fitness and nutrition?
Yeah, it probably. Well, yeah, it played a massive part because not just when I was younger. Like you see a lot of people in the fitness industry. I said this to somebody the other day, and nothing wrong with this, where the passion for fitness comes from sport or always been into the gym or had some sort of athletic background, and it sort of lends itself nicely to going into the fitness industry, which is completely normal. I just couldn't have been more up at in school. I would avoid PE at all costs.
Oh, really?
Left school at 16 to do nothing when I worked in a call centre, and picked up very bad habits. Overall diet was poor, put on a lot of weight, and there was this picture that I seen and I was like, mate, you've you've let yourself go a little bit here. I was probably 21 at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, and then that's where I sort of, when I talk about things like relationship with food and stuff, like I can say it straight, mine was terrible. I was constantly trying like fad gimmicks or like chasing, thought I had to cut carbs and then going through phases of like, I remember one was, what's that saying, like eat breakfast like a king lunch,
lunch.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Came obsessed with that. I was like, right, if I haven't, and tried all these different things, and then looking back at that period now, I was just constantly like chasing what to do, and in general, the way I think is like I like to know stuff, which I know that sounds a really simple thing, but I'm quite like, it's like even now with my work, we'll all be backed. I want to know the evidence, I want to know the science behind stuff.
Yeah.
I did a breath work thing here the other day, and I wanted to know physically what was happening. So yeah, I think a combination of the fact that I came from a position of realising I was overweight, had a poor relationship with food, and it wasn't until I actually probably solved that I finally lost weight, plus the fact that I liked learning when I did get into it and I started training properly, eating properly. It wasn't just a hobby of trying to stay fit. I found myself more and more like reading random bits of research about protein synthesis, and I'm like, what are you doing, mate? And then someone said to me at the time, like, why are you not doing this for a job? I was like, yeah, that's a good point.
All right, okay.
But yeah, it stemmed from being overweight, I suppose.
Yeah, geez, I guess in that situation then, considering the clientele that you work with, it kind of gives you a different perspective on what they're going through and what they're dealing with.
I'd say it's very, very rare. Don't get me wrong, everyone's individual, everyone has different situations, but it's very rare that somebody will talk to me about a scenario coming up or the way they felt after something, whether it's like they've gone off track or they're not sure how to do this, or even when they talk about things like confidence in the gym, like there's very few things that somebody can say to me that I can't twig into a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't that long ago, like I'm 29 now, less than 10 years ago. I can relate very quickly back to, I remember being in the gym, 100% true this, right? I remember being in the gym and I wasn't that confident with free weights, right? So I faked a phone call. I walked into the gym, seen a load of people there that knew what they were doing. I was like, get me out of it. Picked up my phone, pretended to be on the phone to get out. Like, that was one of my first experiences in the gym. I was probably a bit younger there, like 19, 20. So it's like when someone talks about being anxious going into the gym, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like I did that. When someone talks about like, I don't know, blowing it at the weekends, I'm like, yeah, professional at that. Like all of the things that could come up, I know what they're like. Essentially, I don't think many lads admit that either. I don't think a lot of lads admit that they struggle with things like weight and dieting.
Definitely not. No. Not as much anyway.
I've had it I suppose because of the type of person I speak to. My client base is probably 60-70% female, but it would be quite common that a lad will come through and he'll relate to something like, maybe I've talked about like Slimming World, and he's like, yeah, I've not told the lads, but I have been trying to like get on them Slimming World meals, or been trying to have a vodka tonic in the pub, but I'm like, yeah, get that, like I did that too.
Yeah.
But a lot of lads are too proud sometimes to admit it.
That's it, and especially when it comes to the gym, such like a lot of the time, but many gyms, they're so like such a masculine energy, or what would you call it, such a testosterone fueled place in a lot of ways. I can see how, as you were saying there, you went in and when it was too busy, just or didn't like you, went on a phone call and went out. I can see how that would, somebody who lacks confidence in general could happen to them. Now myself, I was always kind of into the gym from a young age, so I got into it early and probably was part of the pricks that are acting like that when I think about it. Yeah. I could definitely see it now when you say, especially if you're kind of going in and it's a free weight based gym. Do you know, if it's like, if it's machines and stuff, you jump on a machine, you'll figure it out. But if you're trying to stand there doing dumbbell curls and the squat rack and you don't really know what you're doing and stuff like that, like you're kind of trying to figure out what to do, really take its toll on you. And I can see how a session could go by and you could lose interest.
You say the pricks. Like nobody in there would have been doing anything wrong, and it's like I even say this to my clients now. Do you know, like I'll joke about it on social media because everyone finds that stuff funny, basically. Yeah. But realistically, if you see like a lad in the gym and he's, I don't know, benching or something, you can almost guarantee if you go over and just ask him a question, why do you do that? Should I do that? If he knows his stuff, obviously, some of them won't, but it's very unlikely they're going to go fuck off, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly. No, you can curse away. Yeah,
Okay,
curse
great.
away. Jesus, no.
And a lot of it, like for me, I would say it was nothing to do with what they were doing. Like my own body image wouldn't have been good at that period. You know what I mean? Like, sort of a little bit like, oh, look at them all in shape. I'm not in shape.
Yeah.
You obviously, in your mind, and I see this with clients a lot. The more and more they diet, the worse and worse the body image gets.
Okay.
And if I think back to me at that point, like every other day or every other week, I'm trying somehow to do whatever. I'm consciously thinking about what I look like. So then I'm going into the gym, seeing a load of people in shape.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh my God, look at me compared to them. Don't actually know how to use stuff, and that's where I think it stems from. I don't think it's always the other people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think in ways that, like, and I even notice it when you go into, if you go into a new gym, like even myself, still, if you go into a new gym and there's a couple of juice heads, taking up a place, throwing big shapes, I can just see how that would be intimidating for people, especially at the start, getting into it, as well as the fact that the body image is affected. On top of that, what do you think then? Like when you're looking at that, what kind of negative thought patterns do you see in clients who are trying to lose weight? I know you mentioned dieting as one, body image maybe another.
Yeah, so when it comes to that, this is probably one of the most difficult, not necessarily conversations, but processes for somebody to go through. Because, again, when your goal is weight loss, which is absolutely fine, like have the goal of weight loss. But for a lot of people who come to work with me, who've been trying for years and years to lose weight, there has to be a stage where we actually initially step away from weight loss.
Yeah.
Which I honestly think that can be one of the hardest things for people, because you have to say to them, yes, long term, cool, it can be there, but right now, you are scared of eating chocolate, you're not eating meals enough, you maybe aren't training properly because your energy levels and stuff are through the floor, you're not sleeping properly. You can't lose weight in those conditions. Like, yeah, calorie deficit and all that. And I was as guilty as anyone when I started as a PT to just give them a calorie target. That'll be alright. But when everything else, lifestyle, even the way they feel about themselves, so a lot of the stuff I do with my clients will be around like journaling and mindset work, because until those things are actually in a good place where it's like, okay, you're sleeping properly, you're in a routine where you're actually eating meals, forget the calorie value of them, you're eating regular meals, you're eating fruit and veg, you're staying hydrated, now you're in a good position, you're not afraid of having a chocolate bar here and there. Now you're in a good position to go into a deficit, and we're going back to that long-term goal of fat loss. But that's not like something that happens in a week. I've had it with clients where, depending how long, again, this I could proper go on one about like certain diet clubs and stuff, but they wreck people. Like they proper wreck people, and then it can take. I've had clients where it's taken 9-12 months to just get them on a path of, I don't fear food anymore. Which that's really difficult, because again, when in your mind you want to lose weight, having to actually acknowledge that, alright, a year actually isn't a long time, despite it feeling like one.
Yeah.
But having to say, right now I can't, I need to actually heal my relationship with food. Sometimes it means gaining weight. Again, if you're actually going to allow yourself some permission to eat calories. So that's probably the most difficult thing that I come across, and the most difficult thing I think people find to manage is sometimes the process of beginning a diet doesn't mean instant weight loss. Again, for some, like say you right now, you said to me, oh, Andy, will you help me lose a few kilos? Realistically, we could probably get to work like the second.
Yeah.
Because you're in a good place with everything. But if those standards, and what's the word? I'm terrible with analogies, and I always try and use them, and I forget. But basically, the one about house and sand, you don't build a house on sand. What is it?
You have to build a good foundation.
The foundations, there we go. I told you about it. But you have to put them in place first, and I think that can be, a lot of the time, my clients will generally say, I seen you on social media 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
But then tried this, then I tried this. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they don't want to do that initial work because it's scary.
Yeah, and changing mindset and changing values. And I was actually talking to Siobhan O'Hagan about this the other day.
Siobhan knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it goes. It's such a tough thing to change, and I noticed that myself with, especially as you mentioned, body image, but body image from a different aspect of when somebody has an injury, and they kind of have this idea of that their body's broken, you know, their body needs to be fixed, stuff like that. Like they need to fix, and it comes from social media as much as it comes from anywhere else, about stuff on social media of people saying that you need to have certain prerequisites before you can deadlift, before you can do a show overhead press. You need perfect mobility before you can start playing sports or gym, or you're going to be caught for injuries. You need to look at your posture, things like that. All that changes, or all those, I guess, when people are preaching those different ideas, it really has an effect on your mindset about what you feel your body can do and what it can't do. And slowly but surely it just chips away at the confidence. So people just, all right, well, I don't have perfect posture, so there's no point going to the gym now today, or there's no point trying to go for those exercises. I need to correct my running technique before I start running. That type of stuff, it really pisses me off. Like,
it does, and there's so much. We talked about this the other day, didn't we? But so much stems from your self-talk and what you expose yourself to. But you said feel then. The amount of times I have to have conversations with somebody because I feel fat today, or I am fat today, and it's like, you've just given yourself a label. Like, fat's not a feeling. You're not like, you've got a name. You're not actually called fat. You've got a human name.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start, I'm a lazy bastard. I used to say that about myself. So what do you think I did when I got in from work? I'd sit on the sofa and call myself a lazy bastard. Not even like, I'm trying to be more active, but say it. Say, I'm an active person now.
Yeah.
I go out and I do things. I'm not a lazy bastard. But I think the way that we talk about ourselves makes the big... And I still notice myself will do it with maybe... Andrew and Anthony will call me out in jiu-jitsu for this. Because I'll particularly Andrew, like, I'll talk about myself as a white belt, which I am a white belt.
Yeah.
But then there'll be a bigger guy or some giant Russian or something like that. And I'm instantly, like, I can feel it in my head. And I'll speak to him and go, he could smash me. And he's like, well, what do you think's going to happen? You've just said he could smash you.
Yeah.
He's about to go and smash you. I was like, yeah. And when I flip it like that, I can relate back to them when people come to me saying these things like, you're setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, exposure, online. If you're following constant accounts of people, one of my pet peeves on social media is the posts where it's like, don't know if you'll see this because it's probably not really the sort of people who come to your socials, but it'll be like a post, week 1, -1 pound, week 2, maintain, week 3, and I'm like, oh, stop following people who do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't help you at all.
Yeah, that's so true.
Sorry if anyone here does that.
I actually see, like, other ones, it's like, you'll often see it, they go to a supermarket and they'll pick out certain foods, like, don't avoid these, don't eat these ever, don't eat Cocoa Pops ever. Don't eat this ever.
Slimming World do it. I've named them now, so sorry if your podcast gets sued. They I can't remember which way around it is, but you allow banana, but if you mash it, no, that's it. If you have mashed banana, it's free food, so you can have as much as you want.
Okay.
But if you don't mash the banana, it's got 2 or 3 sins.
What?
And obviously sins are only allowed, I don't know how it works, but like, say you're allowed 10 sins a day. So if you had 3 full bananas, you're not allowed any more. But if you mash the banana, there's no sins.
What's that about? Like,
honestly, mate,
is that just made up on the spot?
Pretty much, yeah. If I'm really trying to, like, help them out of the hole they've dug, an absolute push.
Yeah.
Maybe, and no, I can't do it. I'm trying to justify it for them, but no. I'm thinking if they were, like, thinking along the lines of juicing, but even that doesn't do it. So no.
Yeah.
It's pure stupidity.
Jesus.
But like you say, then somebody's going to walk around the supermarket, like, panicking about
what they can get and what they can eat and what they can look at. Like, yeah. Or even just, like, with Siobhan, actually, we talked about how when you get into that state of, like, resisting food all the time, it only works for so long. Like, you only have so much willpower. So you might do it for 5 days of the week. Come Saturday, Sunday, you just let go. And I guess, like, now from my perspective as let's say a body recomp, that type of stuff, I have the basic knowledge of it, but I wouldn't have the details of it, and so I definitely leave that to the professionals when they are doing it. But if you're restricting for 5 days on anything, and then you're trying to think that if you think for 1 second at the weekend you're going to be good to go, like, easily, and the way Siobhan was talking about it, it's so often that they'll max out their calories, but way more at the weekend. Like, overeat, binge eating, I think is how she describes it, so consistently. Do you see that pattern?
Yeah, I do. And it's so, you've got to understand we're humans, and if you take us back to the caveman days, here comes a terrible analogy again, right? But we ultimately food to us is energy. It's storing energy. And if we're depriving ourselves of energy for so long, you're not going to outdo your body on this one. Like, it is going to make you want that food, and you're going to eat it.
Yeah.
The caveman analogy was something completely different, actually, and we're not going to go down that route. I had this. I actually spoke about this on my Instagram stories today, and I'm actually posting about it on my Instagram today. But I had this conversation with a client yesterday, and she won't mind saying this. Her total calories for a day are average of 2,000 a day, right? So we sat together and she was telling me how she's feeling really hungry, energy levels are low, etc. And so we sat together and we went through her week. And the majority of her breakfasts were sub 300 calories.
Okay.
The majority of her lunches were 400-500 max. Evening meal, again, pushing 400-500 calories. So all the way through, we have leptin and ghrelin. So ghrelin's what makes us hungry, leptin's what makes us full. If you're eating, let's say, again, it depends on individual and body size. But for her, if she had 600 calorie meal, 25 to 30 grams of protein, plenty of fibre, fruit and veg in there basically, she's going to increase her leptin levels and reduce her ghrelin. So she's going to feel full, not feel hungry, which is great because we're trying to lose weight, so as much as we can feel full and not hungry along the day, perfect. And she can do that she's going to have a large calorie breakfast at 500-600 calories. Then she'll do that, she'll reduce ghrelin. And then later on in the day, she'll get hungry again, say 1 o'clock. Cool, I said to her, go and have another 600 calorie meal. 25-30 grams of protein. You're not going to be thinking about food all day. Same again, evening meal. Aim for 600 calories. Like, don't try and hold back. And I think this comes back to diet culture where, and she admitted this herself, she was talking to me about it. The 300 calorie breakfast, which it was like a banana and a coffee and a little bit of porridge or something. It's just being ingrained into her to eat little. But because she was doing that, because she was having these 300 calorie breakfasts, 400 calorie lunch, like barely any calories from meals, she's constantly thinking about food because the leptin and ghrelin levels are all over the place.
Yeah.
Ghrelin is just raised through the roof saying, give me food right now. So despite her having a breakfast, trying to hold it back on calories, as soon as she's finished breakfast, she's thinking about her next meal.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking about food constantly through the day, you're going to end up at some point, whether it comes down to the weekend, whether you do have the willpower, which I don't think most people do. I don't think people last 5 days. Whether it turns in like somebody brings in biscuits to the staff room, or you drive home from work and you see a Mackey's. Like, I've done that. Like I said, I used to do it. I can speak about it so clear because I know what they do. But if you're constantly thinking about food all day, you will break at some point.
Yeah.
You will. Which is why people, when, like, again, I'll set calorie targets, and some females might hear this and hear the word 2,000 with a 2 at the start, like, a female eats 2,000 calories a day. Because it's, like, I will try and get them to eat as many calories as possible while still in a deficit that's enough. Because this habit of starving yourself, it just doesn't work. And
to kind of clear that up, what raises ghrelin levels and what raises leptin levels? Is there certain foods, wouldn't be individual foods as such. Higher protein. Okay. So a high protein diet is going to be beneficial in terms of increasing leptin, reducing ghrelin. I'm not going to bullshit and say that fibre definitely does, but I want to tell you that fibre does. Yeah. But fibre is more about your stomach fullness, not necessarily satiation. Yeah. But outside of protein, no. Protein would be the most important, and then like overall calories of the actual meal. Okay. Like, a protein shake, would probably make you feel full in the short term. Like, if anyone's had a protein shake, I'm sure you know the feeling. An hour after a protein shake, you're probably not that hungry. Yeah. Despite it being lower calories. But long term, no, it's calories and protein. So if you wanted to gain weight then, obviously you'd eat a load of shit food.
It's not quite. But it's a funny one, right? Because, so I don't have too many clients now who I'm putting in surpluses anymore. I've got a couple of lads who are going through gaining phases at the moment. Whether you're in a deficit, whether you're at maintenance, whether you're in a surplus, and bearing in mind, even when you're trying to gain weight, you shouldn't be overdoing your calories by that much. Let's say your maintenance is, I don't know, mine and maintenance would be about 2,700, right? Yeah. If I was going to go into a muscle gain phase, I wouldn't be eating an extra 1,000 calories on top of that. 300 max, 200 to 300 surplus is plenty for building muscle. So in terms of what food you'd eat, whether you're dieting, whether you're at maintenance, whether you're in a surplus, I say it to my clients all the time, your diet shouldn't look any different at any point. It should be predominantly made up of fruit, vegetables, plant-based foods, plenty of protein servings, and I'd be saying like 20-30% a week of stuff you enjoy. You want a bit of chocolate? Include it. You want some sweets? Include it. And whether you're... If you're dieting, for example, you might, instead of having... let me think. A bagel, you might go for a bagel thin. Do you know what I mean? Make little sensible swaps. Instead of cooking in...
A bagel which?
Bagel thin. Like a thin bagel.
Oh, yeah.
Literally,
Take
it's
accents.
just half the calories. If you're cooking a meal when you're dieting, maybe you use that, the spray oil, 1 calorie spray.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to add an extra 200 calories, maybe you cook in olive oil.
Oh, yeah,
But the same meal.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So I'd very rarely dramatically change things. If you're struggling with gaining, which is probably surprisingly more common than you'd think.
Yeah, I struggle with gaining weight.
It's really hard because of how much you got to eat. Then is where I'd be thinking more stuff like that's not that satiating. So yeah, potentially leather in some toast in jam, because things like jam, peanut butter that aren't too filling, like you're not going to gain from extra protein shakes because you're just going to feel sick.
Okay. Oh really? Yeah. You don't.
You're not sick. Like you are going to be overly full though.
Yeah.
Your protein requirements wouldn't fluctuate massively.
You don't go for the 2.0.
If I've got the calories there to sort of get to that level. But protein at some stage is going to like 2.2 grams per kilogram body weight. Whether you're deficit or building, you're not going to get dramatically different results from that.
Okay.
So for me, if I was gaining, I would probably go more towards carbs, because then we can put performance into the gym.
Yeah.
By putting carbohydrates in and around the workout.
Okay.
So the extra calories for me, I would be saying a bowl of cereal before training. Something like Cocoa Pops.
Yeah.
300-400 calories, quick absorbing sugar.
Is that how much it is for?
It depends who's pouring, mate, but I'm pouring. You see, on cereals, it's like a recommended day. Like, I always have to warn clients of this when they're tracking, because if you, add some Cheerios to MyFitnessPal or something, it'll automatically put 30 grams.
Yeah.
It's like the recommended serving. If you've ever poured 30 grams of cereal, it's like a mouthful, mate. It's pathetic. I'm doing about 100 grams, mate, just full bowl of it.
So that's a full bowl is like when they say 30 grams, because I always look at that as
30 grams is so little. No, I've never seen anyone do 30 grams of cereal.
I've never weighed it,
It's 30 grams isn't much.
Really? Okay.
Mate, tell you how I found this out. So I did a photo shoot like 2.5, 3 years ago. So obviously I was tight with my calories, and I found that out the hard way, because I was like, fuck's sake. I can't even bash out a bowl of Coke. Although I did a refit, so when you do the shoot like 2 days before, and this is why I always tell my clients, I don't post the photos of it from anymore on my social media.
Oh yeah.
I don't actually use any before after photos anymore. But I say to my clients all the time, when you see these like fitness models and shit, or like bodybuilding, like they've manipulated everything for 16 weeks.
Yeah.
In the 2 days before it, they've manipulated things even tighter to look like that for an hour and a half. And then they don't look like that anymore. But you can't use them things as comparison. But yeah, in the build up to my shoot, the 2 days before, my carbs went up to like 400 or 500 grams. So I was like, alright, get the Cocoa Pops out.
Oh geez, yeah, that's good. So what then? When I think about it, like I know you were saying that you're upping your carbs. Why are you doing that 2 days before the photo shoot? What's the idea of that?
Because your muscles store glycogen.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically, when you're doing the shoot, you want to look big, don't you?
Oh,
as
so
big as I could have got. Like, look at me, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. But it's so your muscles will store up to 4. I want to say off the top of my head, 4 grams glycogen, 10 grams glycogen within your muscles. I'm sure it's that. I can't think off the top of my head. But basically, your muscles will store carbohydrates as glycogen. So say you carb load for, no, that's right, 10 grams per kilogram body weight, because I carb loaded 800 grams over the 2 days before my shoot, and I was about 70 kilos. Anyway, your muscles will store glycogen. So again, when you see these bodybuilders at bodybuilding shows, they've fueled up on glycogen, carbohydrates. so that it's gone straight into the muscle.
It blows it up then, yeah.
It's why they look huge.
Yeah.
And then you do a little pump on top of that. Like my coach at the time told me to have a little bit of salt as well because it
taking more
pumps
water.
your veins a little bit, yeah.
Oh, pumps the veins, yeah.
But yeah,
nice.
Carbohydrates before.
Good. Okay. Good to know. So
That's
you've gone
honestly,
to the beach.
mate. So I'd been on low calories for 13, 14 weeks, and I was waiting for him the 2 days before my shoot to send me through my calories.
Yeah.
And I'd seen them and I was like, yes, give them to me. So happy.
Oh yeah, okay. So covering all that, then one of the things I wanted to look at are what are the mindset shifts you see in clients that make like a long-term change, whether that be weight loss or weight gain. What type of a change do they have to make around they're doing on day to day?
Do you know what? This is cheating. I'm not going to say my answers. There was a study released like literally about a month, 6 weeks ago, and it was what are the consistent habits of long-term weight maintenance.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say some of them now, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, of course. But it's like, it was my favourite one actually. I can't remember the way they worded it, but not allowing one thing to derail you. I honestly think that's probably the most important lesson anyone it doesn't even need to be health and fitness, this.
Yeah.
It can be anything, like business, just general life. I think too often people will let one small trigger, whether that in my case would be a meal out or a missed gym session or a night out, they'll allow that to then take 3-4 days. If it happens on a Wednesday, let's be honest, you're going to put it off and say start on Monday.
Yeah.
And I think when you can get out, and it was interesting for that study, for that to be one of the most popular answers, because I think nobody's going to ever be perfect. And you shouldn't be perfect. Like I talked about, like sort of the 80-20 rule, where you are 20% more flexible, but there's going to be weeks where you're 30-40% more flexible with your diet. If it fucking happens, you're a human. But I think when you can sort of take that step back and not link everything into one big collection of decisions and realize, like, we make thousands of choices about food in a week. One of them going off doesn't need to impact everything else.
Yeah, resilience, huge.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
And again, this probably comes back to some of the work that I think diet culture has done to people, because often, I think stereotypically, maybe not so much in the last 5 to 10 years, but generally when it's come to weight loss, the sole factor of people's judgment of themselves if it's working was the scales. So they've got everything pinned in onto one thing. So when that thing hasn't gone well, they've allowed everything else to go off. But I think when you can step away from that sort of culture and realise that there's so much more to judge yourself on.
Yeah.
Than even just your weight. Like, there's just so much more to a person than what they fucking relate, like gravity.
Yeah.
That's literally all your weight is. It's gravity. So I think that is probably one of the biggest things. I think in terms of some of the things I see when it comes to my clients who get great results is the work outside of just the gym and nutrition. Like I'm not going to pretend at all to be an expert on stuff like meditation.
Yeah.
Journaling, generally reading, time outdoors, all of those things. Like, I'm not here to preach those things specifically that you should do them, but everybody who I see get great results does something like that. They do work on the mindset as well. Like, again, I'll give my clients journaling prompts all the time, and the ones who are proactive with doing those sort of things, I do, because I think I'm going to guess that this is a lot of what you talked with Siobhan last week, so I won't go into too much, but I think when you realise what's important to you, what your values are,
yeah,
you take the time and your headspace to think about that, and you can then almost like work backwards and be like, okay, how does me training, how does me losing weight, how do these things impact then my values? That's where results come from. And go back to the habit, the people who take the time to work on those sort of things, to realise those things, are the people who will get long lasting results.
Yeah. It does come back to that identity side of things, and it is something that we did talk about a good bit.
It's interesting how many people you'll speak. I bet you've had so many conversations like this on your podcast, because I have on mine, that hundreds of people say the same thing, and most of the people who say it are people you respect and know what they're talking about. So it's not like people pass certain things off as like airy-fairy and that.
Yeah.
It's clearly not.
It's true. But if you go back to identity on a basic level, I'm sure you consider yourself a fit person. I consider myself a fit person and a sports person as well. So I know that I'm most happy when I'm training and when I'm performing. Well, relatively, I say I do like other things as well. I'm not that
know
way.
what you mean. No.
Yeah, but in general, I get a lot of enjoyment out of training. And my identity is that I am a sports person, that I like to compete, and to live up to that identity, I have to train consistently during the week. And it's not that it maybe before when I was a young person that was the case, but now I don't think of it like that at all. I consider myself I train every week because that's kind of in the back of my mind, but it's not driving me. Now I don't know which one is driving which. Am I training because I'm an athlete, or not an athlete? Am I training because I'm a sports person? Am I a sports person because I'm training? I don't know which way it is exactly at the moment.
It's like a tongue twister, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. But and I think that's a huge thing as well. If you can get that idea into your head, a lot of work that I do with clients is around resilience and around discipline and around I think resilience is a big one. And I actually had a guy on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Cullum Doody. He's done a lot of research into resilience. Really interesting guy. And he talks a good bit about how the amount of things in your life that affect your resilience. So it doesn't matter who you are. He does military populations mostly. And one of the things that he was saying that people need is that support. That's the main thing that can determine someone's level of resilience or how resilient they are when they come back. So in the army, it was people in the camp coming back. Let's say you saw something horrific, like someone getting executed or someone getting shot or something like that. When you come back, everyone has a similar experience, so you can all talk about it and you can chat about it here and there. And I think the same thing comes back to when you're talking about trying to lose weight, when you're talking about getting back from a bad injury, is that you need someone to talk to about. And I think that accountability and that support side of things is huge. How do you find accountability? How much of a factor is accountability in your coaching?
I don't just say this because I'm a coach, right? I'm actually shit at marketing on social media because I hate all the stereotypical sort of things that people do for marketing. And I say that, and I probably shouldn't because it's not marketing. But anyway, I just think that accountability, I say it really straight, I think everyone should get a coach. I really do. It's probably the best a good coach is probably the best investment you could potentially ever make in your life. And it's not accountability, yeah, but it's having the support of an expert, somebody who has your best interests at heart, who probably cares, and people might not always believe this, but I can only say it for myself, and I know you'll be the same, and I know other coaches who feel the same. Somebody who actually cares as much about your health and fitness goals, coming back from injury, fat loss, whatever, but somebody who feels the same way about you as you want them to, essentially. And it is, accountability is massive, because ultimately, if my clients aren't doing what they need to do, and when I say that, it's the things that, so always the first thing I'll do with my clients is values and goal setting, because what I get really clear on what it is that they want and why it is that matters to them, and I'll call them out if I think that they're not clear enough with the answers, if I think the goal's a bit too, for want of a better word, soft, or I'm not sure the connection of why it will make them feel the way they claim. I'll get them to be really clear on it, so we've got a really clear, crystal clear goal in mind.
Yeah.
Because then, if they start to regularly miss a gym session, or if they're hammering things at the weekend and getting too pissed or whatever, I can then bring it back to them and say, listen, this is what you said is important to you.
Yeah.
I'm here to hold you to that. And I think somebody else to say that to you. I've had business coaches, I've had nutrition coaches, and it is having somebody else that can come in and just make you review, reflect, keep you on the right path, help you make decisions. Decision making's hard, really hard. And to have somebody to even I have it with a lot of clients. They'll, in their updates with me, they'll almost talk me through exactly what needs to happen.
Yeah.
But the fact that they can have me to say, yeah, I agree, everything you've said is perfect. Maybe I'd do this slightly differently, but most of what you said is perfect. It's such a reassurance. And again, particularly with mine, there's so much myths and misinformation online that if you can get somebody who can just take all that confusion away and just say, yeah, just stay on this path.
Yeah.
I think, support and accountability.
It's huge, yeah.
But I do, people get a coach. Honestly, it's the best.
It's true.
That's why I do it for a living. It's min.
I was gonna say, and I've had even myself. Like I've worked with a couple of different coaches for different things, and I think it that side of it is huge. I actually had a call with a client last week. It was an interesting one. He was basically, before he jumped on board at me, he was like, I need to take a couple of days to think about it, because I when I commit to something, I want to commit 100%, and I do have commitment issues. It's something that he said to me, and I was honest. Like, yeah, he was honest, like, and I was like, okay, grand, no problem, take a couple of days and think about it. So he came back a couple of days later and he jumped on board, and I was like, perfect, right? We laid out all the goals, what he wanted to get to, why he wanted to get there, really dug into the why about it as well. And about 5 weeks in, then he kind of was like pulling back now. And if he's listening to this, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. He kind of started.
I do that to my clients on the podcast.
Just he starts pulling back, and he's kind of missing a few sessions here and there and that. And then we jumped into it, and then he was like, I think I need to start doing this instead. He's like, I think I need to start working on this. And I was like, okay, grand. We went through the goals again, and I was like, all right, understand where you're trying to get to, understand why you're trying to do it. At the start, I was like, I can remember you said that you commitment issues when you jumped on board, and I was like, and do you feel that's playing a factor in why you think you should change up what you're doing now? And he's like, oh, not really, no, I think this is just the best option. And I was like, and when you look at the best option, how long do you think you're going to stay at that next option before you look for something else, before you look for something new? And I remember seeing it on the call. He kind of stopped. He started laughing. He was like, that's hilarious. He's like, I can't believe that you picked that out. He's like, I can see exactly what I'm doing. There was a pattern there. He'd stick to something. A couple of weeks in, he'd drop it. He'd look for like the next shiny object. He'd jump onto that. He'd pick it up, and then he'd drop that one, and he'd jump onto the next thing. But without having an outside person looking in and kind of telling you, this is where you're fucking up.
How many people do that though? On it, like exactly like that, but without the opportunity to ask a professional. They maybe get a training, like a really exciting training program. They're like, oof, 4 weeks of this one done, let's get the next exciting thing. It's like, no. Stay with what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But new things are shiny, and I think time frames and expectations of certain things are often quite skewed. Again, I think that comes down to things like these 6 week shreds, and I know you do long term coaching, so I know you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think everyone wants things quick. Our attention span's terrible, innit? I struggle to watch a video on TikTok now if it's not like a quick 15 seconds.
Yeah, I know.
So in terms of like, you have to say, okay, this is what you want. You want to tone up, you want to lose weight, you want to feel great about yourself. 9 months. Yeah. You're like, no, I want it in 6 weeks. You're like, right.
I'm only looking for this video because I needed 2 weeks time.
But without the person to sit there and talk you through it and, like you say, bounce ideas, you're just going to look for the next shiny thing, aren't you?
Oh, it's so common. Like, yeah, it is common. But I think, and hopefully people listening to this podcast will figure out that because I do it. Like, I do it all the time.
I'm the worst for it.
I couldn't think of anyone worse. Yeah.
I don't let Safari load. Yeah. I can change tabs.
It's so true. Like, yeah, because I'm so bad for it. But it's something that I think when it comes to it, the like journal and stuff like that, reflection really helps as well, because you kind of think about it. And I found that with jiu-jitsu even, that there was certain stages, certain positions that I got to in jiu-jitsu that I was like, okay, right, he has me in this position, I either get out in the next 10 seconds or I'm going to get submitted. And then 10 seconds passes and you've nearly given up before it even happened. Like, you could have another option. The other guy could have messed up. But because you had that mindset of like, all right,
mate,
I can't change it, that's it, done.
That is. So I, for the first time, rolled with Anthony the other day.
Oh,
mate, I know. Just for reference, everyone, he's a black belt. Like, he's an absolute killer.
He's number 4 in the world, I think he came, wasn't he?
Is he? Yeah. But he said to me, he's like, come on, we'll go. And I was like, okay. And he was obviously not going anywhere. He's probably like 1%, and he was still beating me. But I went at the start. I tried to pass his guard, and I felt myself doing it. I went to pass his guard when he's like realised he was going to stop me straight away. Then I tried to I'm trying to not use technical, throw his legs to one side. Then I tried to do under his legs. Then I tried in the space of about 10 seconds maybe to try and pass his guard in a different way. And at the end of that rolls, he came over and he sat with me and he's like, just choose one of them and stick to it, because you're not committing to anything that you're doing. Since he said that, all I've focused on is knee slide to the left hand side. It's the only pass I've tried since. Yeah. And I've got really fucking good at it. Because he was just like, just hammer home on it, hammer home. Like, if you get it wrong and someone like gets you in half guard, cool, you've learned that you're gonna maybe end up in half guard from it. Yeah. Somebody escapes, hip escapes, you'll learn that might be happening. But if you just go that same one every single time, you'll get good at it. Yeah. And funny enough, the black belt was right.
Yeah. Jeez, what do they know? Like,
but it's exactly the same. I've only just thought of it as an example to that, but it's me trying too fast to change things and trying something different because the first thing wasn't working, whereas I didn't give the first thing a chance.
Yeah, but I think, and it comes back to that idea of resilience as well. Right, it doesn't work. Even if it does work halfway and you get through, like, then it's thinking, okay, right, what can I do now to, like, you're trying to create, and I've been talking about this I've been talking about this so much recently, is creating positive feedback loops in terms of, okay, right, I've got to here, what's the next thing I can do to get onto the next stage? It might not be that you get to even half guard, it might be quarter guard, whatever it is you get to. And then what can you do from there? What can you do from there? And I think that it goes back to training as well. All right, let's say you're able to train now. Before you couldn't run a 5K, now you can run 2.5K. That's from my perspective, let's say you have an injury. So now you're able to run 2.5K. Do you give up and say, Jesus, I can't run a 5K? Or do you say, I can run 2.5K, I can take a step aside and I can run 100 meters, do you know, and then I'm going to stop then. The next day you might run 2K, take 3-minute break, run 2K, take 3-minute break. You're halfway there then. You're over halfway there. You're almost at the finish line. But I think it is about, like, thinking about, once you get to a certain stage, what's the next smallest thing you can do as soon as possible after to try get you to that next, even if it's only 5% better or 10% better. But if you get into that mindset of thinking, and I always say to clients, is like, when you find that area, discomfort or pain or whatever it is, this is general advice, people, so don't just listen to this. And the clients I know that I say this to are obviously have an idea what to do. But I say, when you get to that point of pain or discomfort, I want you to kind of find it. I want you to work around it. I want to see where the weakness is. I want you to see what muscles are tight and why they're tight, what way your breathing is, what's changing when you're doing it. And I'll lay them out individually, but it stops them thinking, okay, that's the pain, stop. Come back. It's like, okay, what can I do from here now? What can I do from here now? I think that's a huge part of it as well.
Small wins, mate. They're so underrated.
Yeah.
But it is, it's like I say to my clients with progressive overload, if you get one more rep every week, in 4-6 weeks, that's an awful big difference, but it's not always a sexy time, people, is it?
Yeah, I know, yeah. As opposed to, you could just do this exercise instead of...
Yeah, just do
some your biceps are going to look like...
Yeah, oh, mate, some of them online, it just is...
Oh, don't talk to me.
It's mental.
Crazy. What we'll say, okay, I don't want to hold you too much longer. I know you have to get a flight out of here this evening.
When's this being released?
Oh, a couple of weeks.
Sound.
Yeah.
Surprise everyone at home.
Yeah. So I want to, last couple of things I want to touch on. Favourite books and how they shaped your viewpoint or your reality.
Ooh. Alright, first book I read that changed probably my approach to everything, but I've read it more recently and didn't enjoy it as much, was The Miracle Morning, because it made me realise that I wasted a lot of time in the day. I would try and lie in as late as possible, crawl out of bed, and I am actually a morning person, like I like being up early, but I just didn't. So The Miracle Morning was probably the first book that got me into good habits and routines.
What did it teach you?
Pardon?
What did it teach you exactly? Like?
It was, do you know what, it's been that long since I fully did it, but it was just about utilising time. It was more, it wasn't, because it's Hal Elroy, he's got a podcast as well. Although it's called A Miracle Morning, I think that's more from a nice sales point, because he says openly in the book, this doesn't have to be done in the morning.
Oh yeah.
But it's about finding time in your day, and actually like time where you can find peace, be on your own, and do something productive that works for you, something that maybe you're not. So for me at the time, it was getting into the gym, and it was making me consistent with the gym, and it was talking about how is there something that you know you need to be doing, find empty time in your day and allocate it and basically stick to it.
Yeah.
So Miracle Morning, I'm not going to say Atomic Habits, because how many people have said that to you on the podcast?
Oh, it's Atomic Habits, yeah.
I'm not going to bother with that. Ryan Holiday, Stillness is the Key.
Oh,
was
nice.
Probably one of the most helpful mindset books I've had. So when I had COVID, similar time to this time last year, won't bore you with my life story on it, but through a very, very serious series of unfortunate events, I ended up in a form of isolation for about 7 weeks.
Oh.
So I did 4 weeks isolation in Bali, then 2.5 weeks in a hotel room in London. It was awful.
That's form of torture.
But I read the first week of my isolation, I read Stillness is the Key. And surprisingly, you said it there, it sounds like torture. I actually smashed the 7.5 weeks.
Oh, really, yeah?
And I put it down to that book helping me through it. Let me give you one more.
What did it teach you?
I knew you were going to ask that. And I know this sounds really bad, but I can't really remember too much of the stuff that like specifics that was given in the book.
Okay.
It was much more about just slowing down.
Yeah.
And just accepting where you're at, which for me at the time,
yeah,
I definitely didn't have much more choice.
Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday as well as.
Ryan Holiday's a legend.
Yeah, he's
Courage is Calling, his new one.
What's it called?
Courage is Calling.
Okay, I haven't
About being brave and like just daring to try new things, etc.
Okay, nice.
Etc. That summarises the book. There you go. And then let me give you one more. Let me have a think. You know what I really like? And I'm laughing because you said Siobhan was last guest, and she gives me shit for this book, but I love The Midnight Library.
Okay.
Have you read it?
No.
So it's a fiction book. It's a story, and it's this girl, and she is on like death's door basically, and somehow comes like in this space between between life and death, and it's a library, and it's one of her old school teachers in the library, and she's saying how she wants things to be different.
Yeah.
So then she starts I think they're bringing a film out about it. She starts picking out books to show what would life be if it was different the way she wanted.
Okay.
And she started realising through every book that she was doing, so there's like books from when she was a little baby, books from when she was a toddler, books from when she was school, and all these like different scenarios of things that she, I wish this was different, I wish I had this, and there was loads of them that were showing that it's not always better, basically, and that life's not greener.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, she was happy, she got to live again, and she was like, oh, life is good.
Okay.
She was depressed.
Haven't heard of it. Midnight Library.
Midnight Library by Matt Haig.
Interesting, no.
Really good book.
Okay, that's it. First fiction book I've got.
Yeah, mate. It was probably one of the first fiction books I went on a real, like, obviously read Atomic Habits, and I went on a 3-year period of reading where it was just self-development books, mindset, business, all those, like, every one of those books you can think of. Like, what's that money one called? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all those sort of books. Did them all, and I was like, I'm bored of this now.
Yeah.
I started reading fiction last year, and I love it.
Same.
Really, like, I just switch off from it completely.
Have you read The Alchemist?
Yes, what a book.
Oh,
What's he say? Follow the...
The Omens.
No, what does he say? Follow the...
The Omens, no?
Is it? No.
Where it's follow the signs, like follow the...
He says something in it. Follow the... what's it? Butterflies. It's years since I've read The Alchemist.
Okay.
Anyway, but yes, I do. I read...
It's The Omens, I think.
Is it?
I only read it
I'm gonna take your word for it.
Where it's like the signs, follow the signs of things that pop up.
Yeah, Alchemist. What other fiction books I've read recently? I read a love story fiction book recently. I can't remember what it was called. Colleen Hoover was the...
Interesting. Aye. Different insight into it.
I knew no one would give you fiction books. That's why I get one for it.
That's good, yeah, exactly. Be the first to it. Last one then, what purchase of less than €100 or more has made the biggest impact on your life in the last year? £100 if you want to go for that, like, give you that extra.
That is tough.
Is that €5?
Yeah, you give me a little bit more there, aren't you? That's hard, you know. 100 or less.
Tim Ferriss. That's a Tim Ferriss quote, just in case.
What are you doing to me? Read the 4 Hour Work Week, obviously.
Started me online.
Still not found out how to be 4 hours a week. I'm sure he'd made that up. There's no way it works. 100 or less. I do like my bike here, but I can't say that.
Your bike, scooter.
I just love it.
It's one of the best things. Jesus, yeah.
100 or less. Christ.
Could be a book.
Okay, I'll tell you what it is. My journal.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because it's not a fancy journal, it's literally an A4 notepad. And journaling outside of reading has probably been one of the most beneficial things to me ever. And it's literally a pucker pad. Do you know the blank, like what you've got there?
Yeah.
Just A4, one of them. That's what my journal is.
Oh, nice. Okay. What do you journal about?
Do you know, I used to, when I started, I used to be really strict with prompts because I was learning to journal effectively.
Okay.
Now whatever's in my head, whether it's some days it'll be like a bit of a mixture of like a to-do list of work, I always try and make sure there's something in there for me, whether it's like I'm grateful for this, whether it's today I'm going to look forward to, whether it's something like positive about my family or something like that.
Yeah.
Always make sure there's something that it's not just so like get your head straight today, like work hard today, like something that's actually enjoyable, like even if it's just reflecting on really enjoyed doing this in jiu-jitsu today, whatever it might be. Don't always journal in the evenings, to be honest. It's much more in the mornings to set myself
Same
up.
as that. Yeah, same as that. Nice.
But yeah, my journal, $2.99 Amazon Prime.
Oof.
Can't wait to get home and use Amazon Prime. I'm a little whore for it.
Oh, here,
Honestly, mate, I'm ordering everything. I don't need anything, but every day there's a new Amazon Prime package.
Yeah. Oh, you need to keep things ticking over. I used to do that with Alibaba when I was in the States, or AliExpress.
I love it. It's just genius.
Order something, get it 4 weeks down the line.
I've read his book as well, The Everything Store, about Jeff Bezos and creating Amazon.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, that.
Haven't even heard of that one. The Everything Store.
The Everything Store. He started off trying to. That's how he was describing what he wants Amazon to be. Just sell everything.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a good book, that. He's a bit of a mentalist, Jeff Bezos, but
I'd say so. Yeah.
You've got to be if you send in dildos to space.
If you're going to be that, yeah. Is that what he did? Yeah.
Well, have you not seen his spaceship?
Oh no!
Mate, it's actually shaped. Sorry, listeners, for going off a little. It's actually shaped like a dildo.
Yeah.
Not that I know what dildos are like, but
that's an absolute perfect place to finish up for today. No, really appreciate that, Andy. Thanks a million. That was a really good podcast.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed that.
Do you want to? What would you leave with people? Let's say someone who's looking at dieting, or someone who's looking at, let's say, improving their life in the next couple of weeks, couple of months.
Improving your life in the next couple of weeks or months.
What's the one thing you'd say to do?
Start now. Like literally off the back of listening to this podcast, just start. Do something. Like your next choice, make it a positive one. Go and fill up a glass of water. Go and eat a piece of fruit. Go for a walk. Like too many people, even like, will say like, right, first thing tomorrow morning, I'm on it. Like, well, what's wrong with now? Go to sleep early. Like, there's hundreds of things you can do. Just start.
Perfect. Yeah, excellent. I think that's exactly what you need.
Simple, isn't it?
Simple, but as you said, the podcast is start simple.
That is it. Yeah, I've played into that, didn't I?
That's good. Do you want to? Where can people find you? I know you have a podcast. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So my last podcast guest was actually Robbie. So Start Simple podcast, which I've done more guest episodes recently, to be fair, but I do throw out the odd solo one, which is usual places for podcasts. Instagram is @thatgingerguy with an underscore because the bastard wouldn't give me the full handle. And I generally just talk the same amount of crap that I talk about dildos and jokes.
Absolutely.
And fitness and nutrition. So yeah.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. Guys, and thank you so much for listening in again this week. Delighted to have Andy on, and if anyone is looking for any type of advice around that, definitely reach out to him on Instagram. Is probably the easiest way to get you, is it?
Yeah,
Instagram @thatgingerguy. But that's all for this week, guys. Thank you all again for listening, and I will chat to you all again soon. Have a good one.